One of the things we do all the time in these events is think about how the honorees signal what we value as a school. And every year we talk about this in this context. Generally, I talk about the sectors they worked in or the kind of areas they're kind of the achievements they've had. And I'm now 5 years as Dean, just been reappointed another 5 years. That 5 years, 5 years, 10 years sounds like it's going to be a bit long. So I'm thinking of new ways of framing this particular discussion, if you like. And one of those is around values, because the Smurfit School, Quinn School, both in very good health, doing really well internationally. Our reputation is growing. We've identified a couple of distinctive areas where we want to make impact. And I think now it's also the time to think about not only what we value, but our values more generally. And I think the honorees this evening encapsulate what we think as our values very much. Marie O'Connor, Paul and Gary O'Donovan really encapsulate what I would see as authenticity. And the values we've identified as a school are ambition, courage and integrity. And people in particular worry about that or think about that idea of courage and say, what do we mean by courage and what difference does it make? And to me, the courage we want to instill in our students, and the students themselves came up with this idea of courage as being an important value, is that we want them to be real. And we want our students to have the courage to be individuals who make a difference. And again, our honorees this evening, Marie O'Connor and the O'Donovan brothers, have made that difference. And I teach a final year or senior year class, undergraduate class in final year accounting, very imaginative name we have for the Financial Accounting 3. And the students are leaving at that stage. And what I say to them, I talk to them about an Irish novel by Flann O'Brien called The Third Policeman. And in The Third Policeman, you might be familiar with it, the policeman cycles the roads of Ireland so often that he becomes part man, part bicycle. And I say to our students, the accounting students about to leave, do not be the third policeman. Do not become what you do, but be what you are. And Yeats says, how do we know the dancer from the dance? And I think it's very important for us to be able to identify ourselves as individuals separately from what we do, and to have the courage and the integrity to be that person who we are. Because I think we are the only, we can be we ourselves. If you think about it as Economics 101, we are the only supply of ourselves in the world. And nobody else can be us, and we can be nobody else. Even if we try to be like different people, particularly students are thinking that they should be like somebody else and there are other people who they'd like to be like. And I think a very important message is that we can only be ourselves. Being other people means we are always going to be second best, because those other people will always be better at being themselves than we are. And I think very often in the crisis we've talked about the idea of the foolishness of crowds, that there was groupthink and there were people who came along with ideas more generally and followed the crowd. And what we need is not just the foolishness of crowds, but the wisdom of individuals. And wisdom doesn't necessarily reside in crowds, but individuals themselves. So I think the idea this evening that we have is that our three awardees, our three honorees, are people who have been themselves. I think the idea of authenticity comes through in all three of our honorees, both Marie and the O'Donovan brothers. The idea of being themselves, of being people who are real, who aren't just what they became. In other words, they're not just Olympic medalists or accountants, but they're real people who remained true to themselves, and hopefully will do so for the future. And that, I think, is something that the world responds to. The world responds to authenticity, particularly in leadership. And research very often talks about this idea of the authentic leader, the service leader. And more as in leadership research, leadership education, we talk about authenticity and courage as being a real value of leadership. And this evening we value that in the three honorees that we have. And I would encourage the O'Donovan brothers in particular to be the rower and not the boat. And for generally that we are the people who we are rather than what we do. And I think this is a particularly important value that we cherish this evening. Very important for us that you're all here this evening, because you're all important to us as individuals, not just as the group you are. But more importantly, that we leave this evening with the idea that we are this evening supporting a business school which has values which are ambitious. Our graduates and our students compete with the best in the world, so must we. And we are determined to do so, and we do so right now. But secondly, that we also have a business school which has the courage and the integrity to be itself and to create and value students and graduates who are themselves, because we can only be ourselves, and ourselves is what we owe to the world. And leaving the world in a better place than we found it in is a responsibility of us all, and we do that by being ourselves and having that courage and integrity to maintain our individualism in the maelstrom of the crowd. So the three awardees we have this evening, we're very pleased to honour and value those values of courage and integrity and individuality, of authenticity. And we're very pleased and proud to be here this evening to value those particular characteristics, which are characteristics of the Smurfit School itself. The honorees will be up themselves later on. We're particularly pleased that Alan Ennis will be introducing them, and we're particularly pleased to honour them here this evening, but also very pleased that you're here with us, because we are together, the community that is UCD Smurfit School. Thank you very much, Gabin Mahagat. Thank you.